Welcome to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping Orange County. With your host, Don Camber.
Hello, live from the OCTalkRadio studios at UCI's Beal Applied Innovation Center. I'm OCTalkRadio Public Affairs Director Don Camber with another great guest positively impacting our community. Today I welcome Arts and Learning Conservatory Chief Executive Officer and Founder Debora Wondercheck. As the youngest of 7 children, she was inspired to start the organization when she saw music's life-changing impact on her family. The Arts and Learning Conservatory's mission is to deliver world-class performing arts education to students of every age and background, ensuring equitable access and opportunities for all. Thank you, Debora, for being on Impact OC.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
Debora, please explain the profound impact music had on your life to establish the organization, which over its 20 years serves close to 4,000 children each year.
Right. Thank you. Yes. So you mentioned my being the youngest of 7. What really got me into the arts and with the mindset of creating Arts and Learning Conservatory is my backstory. It's actually even my mom's story. When she was 10 and wanted to play a musical instrument, it was 1945, and she grew up in a very segregated area. Her family was the only African American family in the area or the town or province where they lived in north of Chicago. And all the kids wanted to play an instrument. She knew at the 5th grade, this is when they get to play. She's with all the other kids. And when it came time to play that instrument or obtain one, she was flat out denied that opportunity due to the color of her skin. And so what my mom did at that point was, it hurt her deeply, but what she said to herself was, well, when I'm married and I have kids, they're all going to play a musical instrument. So she actually really meant that. Years and years later, she got married and she would ask the Lord, give me lots of children. She was actually a teacher. She taught in Head Start back in Chicago and just loved children, loved teaching. So one by one, we kept coming. And each child, I was, Lord, also just please give them a little bit of the gift of music, just a little bit of music there. And so 7 children later, I came. I'm the last of the 7. We were all introduced to stringed instruments. There's a couple of us that played violin. One of the violinists doubled as a violist, another viola player with him. I played cello, another brother played cello, and my sister, who's classically trained as a vocalist, also played string bass. So we all played these wonderful instruments and played, my mom would have us performing throughout different places within the community, whether it's community center, churches, senior centers, just performances all over the place, because it was more for her an altruistic, we've got to give back to the community, and we need to help those who are not seen feel seen and loved and appreciated. So she loved what she did, taking us all over the place, and we had private lessons as well. One of my brother's cello teachers was a musician for the Chicago Symphony and told my mom, look, if your children really get good at this, they should be able to get scholarships to go to college. So my lovely God-fearing mom turned into a drill instructor. We began to practice super hard, and 5 of the 7 of us ended up going to different universities across the nation with music scholarships. So for me, starting Arts and Learning Conservatory was a huge part of it was paying it forward or giving back, making sure that those students out there who have not been exposed to the arts understand this art form can actually transform their lives as it did our family's lifestyle. And with my mom being that advocate and being that voice for us, we didn't know we needed that voice, but she knew this is what her children needed, and no child should be denied that opportunity. I've taken on that mantle and created the Arts and Learning Conservatory 20 years ago to make sure that the children like myself, whether it's by my background, color of skin or not, financially, it doesn't make a difference. Children need the arts in their lives. And my programs are taken to schools right where the children are at, especially those in underrepresented communities who cannot afford these services. we bring it directly to the children and make sure that they have that exposure to the arts to make it equitable.
Getting back to your family, were you part of a band? Just your siblings?
Yeah, I was the youngest, and
Right.
the oldest is 13 years difference from me, so
Right.
I didn't really get to play my instrument with the rest of them. They did a lot of the performing and traveling. We also sang together, so I did do that when we would sing spirituals and gospels and things like that. But they were the ones that did a lot of the performing together in groups. I traveled later in youth orchestra and things of that sort and competitions.
What does music mean to you?
Oh my goodness. To me, music is life. It's transformational. To me, music gave me the voice that I needed to have confidence in who I was as an individual. Another part of the story is by the time I was 10, my parents did separate, and that was due to domestic violence that was occurring in the home. And when that happened, my self-esteem just went literally out the window when we had to move away from all our family and friends. Even at one point, we were in a homeless shelter. It was rough, and I didn't want to be around anyone. But by the time we were at our last homeless shelter, it was literally across the street from a performing arts magnet school. And I went to that school and got my voice back. I played in the school orchestra. That school also had musical theater, it had dance, it had art, it had all of these amazing things that literally brought me out of my shell and gave me a voice once again. And Arts and Learning Conservatory was based off of that model of that magnet school that I had attended, where I just was so into myself and closed in, and it gave me life. So music to me and the arts are life. So yeah.
What are the student demographics of your program?
In my program, we have we're in quite a few schools. So right now we're in about 45 schools throughout Orange County, and we're also in LA County in the Compton School District as well, and about 20 some schools there. So the demographic is most of our schools that we're in are Title I. Title I meaning students who have need more resources and more financial support. I would say about 70% of the schools that we're in are Title I schools, and the other schools might be schools that the kids do have the resources, but they do not have an arts program. So we'll go into those schools and make sure that those kids have these programs as well.
What are the ages that we're talking about?
The age group that we work with is ages 5 to 18. In the schools that we're in, it's typically about, I would say, first grade through sixth grade. We're also in middle schools as well, but the bulk of the schools are first through sixth grade that we're serving.
Now let's talk about the different programs you provide.
Yes.
Technical theater, music, scholarships.
Yes. So we have, again, my main instrument was cello. So we have string programs, we have band, we have drumming, we have also Latin percussion. With the drumming, we have African drumming. We also have guitar lessons, a lot of musical theater, and then the technical theater is a new program we've added called BTS, Behind the Scenes. It's more of a STEAM-based program where students are learning about sound and lighting. We do lighting design, and they learn about color and shading and things of that sort, along with how to operate backstage and how to build sets and props and paint things. And we're looking at that program more as a career pathway into the technical field, with even eventually obtaining mentors that are already in the lighting and design field that can help mentor these children, youth, eventually high schoolers that could go into this field right out of high school of technical design.
Do you see yourself in many of the students?
I do. Again, our programs, mainly 98% of our programs are literally on school campuses, right where the kids were. And I have to look back at my life and think, we didn't even have a vehicle at one point, but all the arts were right there at the school. And if it wasn't at school, I wouldn't have had access to any of it. So I do see myself in these children, especially when we do site visits and I get to go see them in action. And I'm just so proud of what they're accomplishing, and even hearing messages from parents that are like, this has changed my child's life. John's normally super quiet, but now he's on this stage and I see a whole nother side of my child that I've never seen before. So it's just beautiful to see the transformation that happens because of the power of the arts. And not to mention that, it's the funness of it. But these kids, they're getting the self-confidence. Many of them are learning language arts skills. You really learn a lot about enunciation and speaking. And with music, you're hearing the different tones to understand language. So there's so many other scientific things happening in their lives as they learn these programs. The other beautiful thing is a lot of these students typically wouldn't even want to go to school, but because these arts programs are there, they'll sit through science and reading and math and things. They'll actually come to school because the arts are there. So the retention rates we're seeing are going through the roof with students that are involved in these programs, which helps the academics during the day as well, which everything just kind of does that little circle of life. It all ties into each other. So we just feel like we're doing some pretty amazing things with the students because we're making sure that these programs stay in the lives of children.
Not to mention teamwork when it comes to music.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The teamwork that's there and the collaboration and and you think too, today's children are really much involved with all the technology and they're on their phones. But when you're in an arts class, you can't be on your phone. You have to learn how to read people and have the silent cues of just understanding, okay, what's the next move they're going to make? What are they going to say? And you learn improvisation with the theater. And these are life skills that these children absolutely need that we're bringing into their lives. So it's powerful.
When you see them perform, in a sense, are you seeing them perform their children, but do you see them perform as adults?
Yes, you know what? Everything that we do with the spirit of excellence. So we are really giving them hardcore things that you would need to know for theater in general, the stage direction, understanding movement. And like I said, these cues, these silent cues that they have to be able to read and look at someone's eyes and know, oh, I go next, or, I'm going to help you with this. So when I see the students on stage, you see that talent that's there and you go, oh, okay, if we have this child for a little bit longer, we could really develop that. But you see the raw talent that's there as well.
Now, what kind of music are we talking about?
When we're working with the students, a lot of what we're doing is more intro level, especially the band and the string students. So, you're learning Ode to Joy, Beethoven's Ninth, just like a little bit of different things. They even do like the seven nation something, like the songs you hear when you're in the stadium. So they have fun songs that they're doing, but it's mainly the basics of classical music and classical training to get them to the fun things that they love to play. And when it comes to musical theater, it's the actual musicals like Annie and The Wizard of Oz and Beauty and the Beast and Jungle Book and, the fun things that they see on TV or hear about. We make sure that the children are enjoying those wonderful aspects as well.
So you're seeing the joy in their faces.
Absolutely.
That is, unless they're blowing a horn.
Definitely see the joy in their faces. And even when they're blowing a horn and they get to that final concert and they get that sense of self-confidence because they were the ones that had that sense of accomplishment. They created it. It's not anything a parent can jump up and try to help them with. These kids have to struggle through and get to the end and overcome. And you cannot beat a beautiful sense of accomplishment that they get that carries with them into the workplace and into the future. So we're doing our part.
Now talk about the staff and the volunteers that make your program work.
Right. We couldn't do it without this staff. So we hire professional teaching artists. We have theater teachers. We have production managers, stage managers. We have individuals that are instrumental. So it might be a strings person that studied violin that's teaching the strings class. We have band instructors, trumpeters, clarinetists. Even our drummer, a couple of our drum instructors, especially for the African drumming, are individuals who are studio drumming individuals that come back and say they want to give back to the kids. But most of the people who work for us, we are paying them to do so. And we're seeing a great return rate with the individuals because they know that their time is being valued. So we do a lot of fundraising to be able to sustain these programs and keep them coming every year like we've been doing for the past 20 years.
How do you fundraise?
We do quite a few different things. We write a lot of grants to get the programs to continue. We also will get sponsors. We have individuals that'll donate. And then some of the schools that we work with will use some of their funding, funding such as ELOP, Extended Learning Opportunity Programs. So some of the schools have funding that they can help pay for our services or Title I use. They'll find a way so that we can get on those campuses and make these things happen for the kids.
How many hours a week are they devoting to the program?
Many times when we go in and we'll do a musical where they're twice a week, about 4 hours each week, and we'll be there for about 8 to 10 weeks, and then we'll have a tech days where we bring in the lighting and the soundboards and really make those children shine. We'll bring in also a costumer that sizes the children, puts their costume in a little garment bag, brings it back with Johnny and Cindy and Jorge's name on the bag and all their little items in it. These students literally feel like they're little rock stars by the time they get to those productions. So yeah, so my staff is very much amazing, very much amazing.
So what was it like the first year, and kind of go through what it's like over the last 20 years?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the first year, it's funny you would ask this. The first year we did The Sound of Music. But listen to this. We did The Sound of Music. We had 21 children, I believe, in that production. 13 of them were in my string ensemble, and the rest of the kids were on the stage. So it's like Maria and her 7 children, and then the 13 of my musicians. So because it was Maria and her 7 kids, we didn't have any soldiers. We didn't have we didn't have hardly have anything. It was Maria and those kids stayed on that stage, and we got through the show somehow. But my musicians had to double as nuns. So like someone would be down there playing a cello, and I'm like, okay, go be the nun right now. So it was hilarious. But our first show, and we only did one show with that one. It was a summer camp. We had 100 people come and see that first little performance we ever had, and I just got so excited. I'm like, wow, people would actually come and see this. It was amazing. And the very next summer we had 145 kids come and be a part of our camp. And then from there, parents stated, look, our program at our school, our arts program, was defunded. Can you bring Arts and Learning Conservatory to our campus? So we did. And so we were in 3 schools, and it grew to 15 and so on and so on. And to today, where we're now, it's a well-oiled machine. We've got, like I said, the separate teachers. We've got the band teachers, the string teachers that go into the schools. We've got our musical theater program where we'll send 2 musical theater instructors into a school, and we'll send 2 technical theater teachers. So while 25 kids are learning how to be in a musical, singing, acting, dancing, we've got 25 other kids that are learning about lighting and sound design and how to build props. And so it's a very different operation. And we have 4 costumers, 2 lead costumers and 2 assistants, and a tech team. So it's a very well-oiled machine, and we're basically theater in a box. We can come to a school and put on a full-on production without any parents having to find stuff from their closets, and we don't do that. We just come in with these quality productions, scripts, everything, roll in, do your show, and roll out. So
that's at each individual school?
Each individual school.
All these different productions?
All these, like right now we have, I believe, 12 productions happening at one time with the costumers getting things prepped and all these teachers in there. So we have about 45 teaching artists right now that are in so many different schools throughout Orange County and Southern Cal.
But you can't be at all the places at the same time.
We can be, like I said, we are in about 12 musical theater places.
So do you stagger it so you can
We stagger.
So you can attend them all?
I can't attend everything.
No, but I mean somehow see them.
We can see
them. Or they can videotape it for you.
We videotape it. We also I have an education director. I have a production manager. They have individuals that work underneath them. So we divide and conquer and get out and see these programs and support our staff. But we have a wonderful, well-oiled machine happening. with these programs.
Now, as a person who had to learn music yourself, is it difficult to learn music?
No, it wasn't difficult, but I will say this, and I even said this when I was teaching, because I taught for about 27 years as a strings instructor, orchestral conductor. I would always start with the beginners. And I would tell the students, you find an instrument that your ear likes the sound of, because if you like the sound of it, you're going to want to do everything it takes to make that sound. So if you go in with an instrument that way, you don't not looking at it, this is going to be difficult and hard. No, you just think, okay, I'm going to eventually sound like Yo-Yo Ma, so I'm going to practice and get myself together and do what needs to be done, and it doesn't come across as hard. Now, practicing, that's what is a challenge when it comes to the students, because after a while you realize, oh, I've got to pick up my bow, I got to practice. But once you really get in that mindset of the final result is I'm going to sound like this individual, you kind of push through and make it happen. But yeah, so I don't think any instrument is difficult, because you find the one that you want to emulate.
Is that what happened with you with the cello?
It is. I started on violin at 3. I was kind of told this is what you're going to play, because they don't have a cello small enough for you. My mom didn't know they made them small, but she made me play the violin for 3 years. And at the age of 3, I said, I really want to play cello. And my mom said, well, when you're 5, 5-ish or so, you can switch to cello. So when I turned 5, I came up to my mom, I go, where's my cello? Because I knew that was the sound I liked, that deeper, the cello is akin to the human voice. So I love that lower tone, and my voice is lower too. And that was, probably I was a little bit high voice, but I knew what I liked the sound of. So it was very natural for me to just go in and play the cello, and I felt I was right at home when I did.
Do you still play the cello?
I don't play as much as I should, but I will play, like I have 3 children. They all play stringed instruments. Son plays bass, middle daughter plays violin, youngest plays viola. And at her school, she's a high school senior now. She was, a couple of years ago, they would have us play a string trio or string quartet, and so I would dust off my cello and play with the kids, because it was my children and I wanted to play with them. But I need to practice, so yeah, I need to get back into playing again.
What has your organization taught you?
Oh my goodness, it's taught me to be patient with the process, because when you have so many different individuals and personalities and teachers, you've got the artist, and some artists can just be very different. You just have to be very patient in trying to understand people, how they operate, and how to encourage them so that they can do what they shine best at without getting in the way of that gift and that talent. It's a pretty tough balance, but I'm still learning to do that. I'm not by any means perfect, but I've just learned to really try to nurture talent and build encouragement within individuals.
How can the public help you?
The public can help if they would love to volunteer. What we also have, which is beautiful, we have our own facility in Costa Mesa. A beautiful 200-seat theater is what we built just recently. We opened in November. So having individuals that would like to donate their time, when we do a production, which this summer we're going to do The Wizard of Oz in our facility, we would love to have individuals that would love to volunteer, maybe to come to a school. Maybe they're a marketing person or social media and they want to help us in that way, or development, great with fundraising. We would love to have the support in all of those areas. The other thing too is we do a large scale production called our Signature Productions, where we really get into the community celebrating. It started really during the whole George Floyd thing, where there was a civil unrest in our nation. I felt a calling to put on a concert that celebrated African American artistry, and for people to break stereotypes of looking at someone different and putting them in a box. So we did a huge concert called Gospel Voices of Orange County at the Musco Center at Chapman University. We're now doing our year 4. So June 22nd, we're going to do a huge concert that has gospel music, spirituals, classical, jazz, and that concert helps support the Arts and Learning Conservatory. 2 weeks ago, we just did a production with the Sagerstrom Performing Arts Center, and they asked me to curate a concert for them, and I called it Symphonic Soul. And we honored African American classical musicians. Carl St. Clair conducted, and the 80-piece orchestra performed with them. And then the second half of the concert was spirituals and gospels and modern tunes. Again, bringing recognition to Arts and Learning Conservatory and the work that we're doing in a greater sense with bringing and keeping the arts alive in the lives of children. So coming to those concerts helps us and supports the program. Donations support us, as well as volunteers that can come out and just show their smiley, shining faces and help in any type of way they can, hands-on.
How do you believe your program will grow even more?
Oh, wow. It is going to grow more. There's so many schools that do not have these services. So what we are now doing is teaming up with youth organizations such as Think Together, the Boys and Girls Club, Pretend City, Girls Inc. We're now trying to expand these programs with places that are already serving children that need these services, but have the kids right there. And they're all wanting to expand and make sure that their children have exposure to the arts. So I really see that Arts and Learning has the capability of expanding up and down the state of California and eventually even being a nationwide organization that's meeting the needs of the children right where they're at.
And explain why music is important to children.
Oh, it's important to children because it fosters a sense of creativity. Children need to create and feel like they have that right at their fingertips. It also helps them with the teamwork, the team building, collaboration. It helps with the spirit of entrepreneurship and looking at things differently from a different angle. And like I mentioned earlier, the language arts development. There are so many children who learn to play an instrument, who maybe English is their second language, but they're learning to play this instrument and they're able to communicate with other children. Musical theater definitely does that, helps children with language skills right away. The mathematics, the sciences, we tap into it all. So it helps children be 100% well-rounded. And how much more do we need that today? And empathetic. When you're learning an instrument and working with all these different people and different personalities as a child, you learn to see everyone has a different story and everyone isn't like you, and you value what they bring to the table as opposed to just looking at someone and saying, I don't want to talk to you. You know, I don't like how you look. You learn to work together. So it's music is needed. And man, it would just be beautiful if everyone in this nation played an instrument or did something in the arts. I think the world would be a much better place and a much more open and welcoming place.
Thank you, Arts and Learning Conservatory Chief Executive Officer and Founder Debora Wondercheck, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
You've been listening to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping our community. Right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.